China stretches across two major earthquake zones along the Pacific Rim and the Himalayan mountains. This year, the country itself plans to launch a satellite. It's aimed at monitoring and perhaps forecasting earthquakes. The probe will measure the Earth's electromagnetic radiation. And I talked about this with David Rothery. He's a professor of planetary geosciences at the UK's Open University. I asked him for his thoughts on programs that might provide early warnings of earthquakes.
Any early warning and monitoring of earthquakes is well worth doing, because when earthquakes strike, buildings can collapse. So it's good to evacuate people if you can. But there's not really a terribly sound footing for a terribly sound basis for saying that we can see warning signs of earthquakes from space. So I do regard this as an experimental system which is about to be tried out with a satellite that's going to be launched. If it works, great. One satellite's not going to give you a reliable warning system, though. If this satellite test works, we're going to need a network of satellites.
You know, trying to predict quakes, it's nothing new. I remember in 1985, the town of Parkfield, California, it's right there on the San Andreas fault line in California. It was in the news because the U.S. Geological Survey predicted that the town would be hit by a sizable quake by 1993. It's a pretty big window, 1985 to 1993, but even that prediction was wrong. The quake didn't hit until 2004. So why is it so hard to predict quakes, and have we improved much since the 1980s?
Okay, well, predicting quakes breaks down into knowing where earthquakes are likely to occur. Now, we do know the parts of the world where there are faults, like southern and western China, like California. And we also know where there have been plenty of earthquakes along a fault and where there are regions of a fault where there's not been an earthquake, which might indicate that that's where the stress is now building up and an earthquake's about to happen. So that's why they'd say in Parkfield in the next 15 years there'll be a quake. But you can't be sure when it's going to happen. I've got a demonstration here. I don't know if you can see this properly. Two rocks, rough surface like on a fault. Now I'll tilt this. The force on this upper rock's going to get stronger and stronger. But can you tell me when it's eventually going to give way and the friction will be overcome and it will slip? I can't tell what's going to happen. Okay, there you go. That was the earthquake. You cannot tell exactly when it's going to be built up to the point when the earthquake will happen. That's the difficult thing, and that's what you need to give warning to evacuate. The best you can do generally is, if you know you're in a zone where earthquakes are going to happen, you build your engineering structures, especially your schools and your hospitals and your dams, in such a way that in an earthquake they will not fall down. They will survive, and so the people inside or the people downstream of the dam won't be killed. They may be damaged very badly, but at least they won't fall down on top of people. So you engineer to be resilient for earthquakes. Prediction is another matter. There was the famous case of Haicheng in China in 1975. That was evacuated one day before a magnitude 7.5 earthquake. It was remarkable. Only a couple of thousand people were killed because most had been evacuated. And the warning signs there were water levels in wells, strange behavior by animals. In China, there's a very long history of spotting warning signs of earthquakes and reacting to them. And that was marvelous. They did it really well in Haicheng in 1975. Then 1 year later, Tangshan, between Beijing and the coast, was a magnitude 6 earthquake, struck out of the blue. No one expected it. Over 200,000 people died. So you don't always get the warning signs. So that's why a satellite system that can respond to some kind of electromagnetic changes in the Earth would be good if it works. But at the moment, there's no sound basis for saying it will work.